I guess you can drop in the chat if you just joined.
Yeah, we're basically going to be answering questions from our community page. We mentioned the Q&A, so it's going to be junk removal, and she is a property manager of 10 plus years for a large company. So any questions about property management, more so for junk removal, if you're looking to market to them, she can maybe help with like who to talk to, what to say, often problems that they have and solutions that junk removal could provide, and just get a little bit of an insight for that, or like how to set up a vendor position and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, ask her about that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're probably just going to hop into the ones from the... Okay, there we go. One more. I don't think they know how many people are here, though. So we can just pretend it's live.
Okay.
So we're just going to be answering some of the questions from the live, and then if anybody has anything they want to chime in with, you're welcome to it. If you can't hear me at all, then please let me know because I have no idea. So I have a list of questions. The first one was from Mintratron7807. What are you going to do for marketing in the beginning to get customers? Let's say the budget is $1K. I would start with probably Nextdoor and Facebook for social media because it's free to do as long as you have a phone. You can literally just take pictures of stuff around your house and maybe take some pictures of you like lifting up a table, lifting up a chair, lifting up half the couch and smiling. Like you can pretend you're working, and you can post and go on Facebook and Nextdoor and say, look for people commenting about either needing to get rid of something or if they're looking to move. The reason why Troll Hunter's here. Hey, Troll Hunter. So if people are looking to move and you comment that and say, hey, you can look at so-and-so, and after that, comment your own self. Say, you can use, van lines, moving and storage. By the way, if you need junk removal, either before or after your move, give us a call, and then just comment your name and number. But the good thing about that is you're not just commenting to that one person, you're commenting to everybody who's looking at that chat in the future. And then do that for Facebook and Nextdoor. If you have $1,000 to start with, I would go with some business cards or like flyers off of UZ Marketing. You can get like 1,000 business cards for $28. It's free shipping. They price match if you can find anything cheaper. But I would start there, just make something basic. They even have templates on their website. So you can look up junk removal. It's like right under landscaping or pressure washing. Look up junk removal and then just edit in your name, your logo, your phone number. Even if it's not a business yet and it's just a side hustle, you can even just edit in like you just do junk removal. If anybody asks if your license is insured, just say no. Most times you don't really need it unless you're going to a property or it's like a commercial bid. But for the most part, I would start there. And maybe if you want to invest in like a decent quality dolly and a hand truck just so you have something to start with. Otherwise, I wouldn't go too far with getting trucks in. I would start with the rental trucks and work your way up.
I think I have like an answer based off property manager side. So if it was me and I was starting a junk removal company and I had a trailer, I had a truck, and I had all the basics and my budget was $1,000, I think a really easy way to get customers or find kind of contracts that you can set up yourself as a vendor is to go to property management companies and maybe actually look at the property management companies that are new to the area. So either they're buying properties, so don't just look at property management companies, but real estate investors, people like that who are new to the area. And depending on your city and state, understand like your junk pickup rules when it comes to city trash. And so if city trash isn't going to take like big mattresses or dressers or things like that from the complex, try to go to those properties first and speak to either the property manager or the maintenance supervisor, or if there's a regional portfolio manager or general manager, someone who like that who can make decisions with procurement and decide whether they want to contract with you based off like a a weekly cost, a monthly cost, or just like pick up per service. That way you'll be kind of first in line to call. A lot of companies are using valet trash now, but some valet trash companies have junk removal already included, and a lot don't. So those are the ones that maybe you can look into or see if they give you the opportunity to maybe pick up a few things first, see how that relationship works, or even if they just give their cards to residents and see if their residents need your services when they're moving or transferring apartments or downsizing, have your cards up at the front or a community board, something like that.
Nice. All right, we have a handful of people now. Moving along a little bit here. Troll Hunter messaged a little bit ago. He's a regular on the channel.
Hi, Troll Hunter.
The next question from the community post, and I have a couple of Instagram questions too. Thank you, Troll Hunter.
Oh.
Some people like me.
You have fans.
Some people like me, not everyone. Base Tiger 8984 asked how to turn an estimate into a deal in person. Any keywords or slogans aside from the price? So when I go to estimates, because as some of you know, I don't work with other people all the time. I'm usually on my own. So for me to actually go to an estimate and try to book like on the spot isn't always the best idea, because there may be something I'm just not capable of handling. But I would say when I go to give estimates, some of the things I push for is, number one, you have to be confident. I'm not the most extroverted person. She is. But I also read a book about extroverts versus introverts when it comes to sales. And they actually say introverts, a lot of the time, have a pretty good grasp on sales because they come off as more authentic and trustworthy versus being that pushy salesperson. So if you're not an extrovert, don't worry about it. But what you do want to be is confident, even if you have to fake it till you make it. Just when you walk into a house, even if you're overwhelmed, maybe it's your first clean out, your first big job, don't freak out. You can freak out in your head, but don't let the customer see it. Try to maintain those like social cues and try to just like assess the place and then let them know, no problem, we'll get this taken care of, and then give them whatever timeline you need. I find it useful to try to book as soon as possible on your end. So if you're there, you could say, hey, it's going to be $600. We can either get it done right now or tomorrow morning, whatever works better for you, even before they say anything. They may not be ready until next week or next month, and they're just trying to get a quote now. But by giving them that attentiveness to get things done fast, I think it's showing them that you're trying to take care of them as soon as possible. It's service-based. And I've gone and told people before, yeah, I think it's going to be X amount. I can get this done today or tomorrow morning, whatever's better for you. And I've had people say, okay, well, I actually don't need it done until next week, but I appreciate you being so prompt about it. And it's just a little bit of gesture of, I'm not just coming here just to give you an estimate and I'm expecting you to maybe not use me. I'm just doing whatever to do. I'm actually trying to get that job and I want that job. And I'm trying to put their needs ahead of mine. So I find that to be helpful. I don't think there's any real slogans or keywords that I know of. Maybe Tanya would from her side, but.
Yeah, I think from what I've noticed from Chris, just watching him off jobs, he really even if it's a job where maybe he wants a job and he can do it, but the price is a little too high or they have some reserves, I always notice he gives ideas to help reduce the cost or gives them a solution to their problem. So for example, if it's like a really big couch, but it's in good condition, he still talks about other options of donating or calling a donation company to come pick it up. And it just, like he said, comes off so genuine. And it is genuine. I think he genuinely wants him to help the person who he's coming to, present a job offer to, but a job opportunity to. But yeah, I think just kind of being yourself and showing the willingness to help regardless or give advice, and also to be an expert in your field. Like when Chris talks about a job and he knows all this stuff in the room, and he's like, it's going to take this much of space of the truck, and he could just kind of do that by walking the room and talking to the customer and explaining the process. You could tell he's an expert. Whether he's shy or anxious or whatever, you don't know, because he just seems really confident in the stuff he knows. And that might be something, if you know what you're talking about, it helps, because people will listen and then they feel that confidence and then they just trust you. So I think really using those tactics will help you land majority of the jobs, because they like you, they like that one-on-one person in relationship, and they trust you. So even if the price may be a little bit more, than someone they find off the street, I think having that expectations of you being an expert in your field allows them to, choose you.
Yeah, I think to add on top of that, I think people forget that junk removal is a luxury service. It's a convenience service. Okay. Anybody could go do this damn job, which is why it's so easy for people to start this as a side hustle. That's why it's so saturated of a market. You don't need to have a trade skill like construction to go do this. You just need to be able to either carry something out, drag it out, lift it out, stick it on dolly, whatever. But that doesn't mean that the people calling us are able to do that, or they don't want to do it. So sometimes, like Tanya mentioned, when I tell people, like I say, hey, it's going to be $600 for this job. And they're like, oh my God, I don't want to spend $600 on trash I don't want anymore. That's stupid. Understandable. Well, here's your solution. You can call a donation. There's umpteen companies out there. I'll go ahead and tell you 10 of them right now. You can give them a call, say, hey, I have this stuff. I can send pictures, whatever. They're going to set up an appointment. Appointment might not be for a month or two. I don't know what your timeline is. I'm just letting you know, though. They're also very unreliable, and they'll cancel last minute or just never show up. And they're very picky. And if you're on the second floor in a high-rise building, they're not going to come anyways. But give it a shot. Or you can go and rent a U-Haul truck. There's a place right down your road. You pass it on the way here. Go get a little 15-foot truck, throw all your stuff in it, bounce around at different donation places, whatever you can't use. Go to your local landfill. $10 minimum, $42 per ton, and you can go drop everything off. And then all of a sudden, they're like, I don't want to do all that shit. Here you go. Here's the job. Because they know that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. They don't want to deal with it. They'd rather pay somebody else. And once you tell them all that stuff, all of a sudden, it's like, all right, that 600 may not be too bad. I probably won't remember it tomorrow. So I've noticed that as well. It doesn't happen all the time, but Troll Hunter said, yeah, I've noticed that for the most part, they are buying you, not the service. Correct. Yeah, that's a good point. So it's hard to justify junk removal sometimes, because like you can go in, somebody just bought a brand new couch for $1,000, and you go in to remove the old couch, and maybe it was a bigger couch than before, and you tell them, yeah, it's going to be like $250, $300. Nobody wants to spend $250 on a couch that they don't want anymore to replace the couch they just bought for $1,000 yesterday. I wouldn't want to spend that. I would never in my life call a junk removal company, and I work in one. I would never call myself to do this job. But that's how junk removal works. It's convenience. They either don't have the time or the capability, or they value their time more than what they do, and they would rather pay you for that.
One thing, when I was in property management, we get vendors all the time coming to us to try to get us to use their services. And it's in all different types of industries, but we get people almost like once a day coming to the office to talk to someone, to sell us something. And like you guys said, it really depends honestly on the person and their approach. If they come off too salesy, we kind of just tune them out and not even listen to what they're saying, because we just know they're trying to sell us something. But the people that, I spend extra time talking to, or I'll give a second chance, is one that gets to not just start off with something super salesy, but just gets to know a little bit more about our business or about us. And that's like respectful of our time. That here's that maybe we have a problem, and instead of just offering a sales solution, they kind of just offer us a word of advice or just their opinion, and they're very thoughtful with it. And those are the people that, when I do have more jobs or I need a vendor, I'll think of first to call, because I'm like, oh, they, for example, pest control. We already have a pest control contract, but sometimes they don't give us everything we need. And so if I get someone selling me pest control, but they come in and they're just like, oh, this is what we do, I'm going to tune them out. But if they say, like, how have the past jobs been? And I tell them, because I don't mind talking about what's going on, and they give me a solution versus just trying to sell me something. The next time we go through changing contracts or we're looking for a new vendor, they're probably the people I'm going to think of first. So I think when, you're going in to kind of get that sale, really just offering advice and solutions in your field is going to make people comfortable with you.
Yeah. Comes down to just business, you're problem solving. And somebody may have somebody already picked up, but that doesn't mean that they are getting little hearts. I don't know what that means. Dang, I lost my train of thought. Oh well, probably wasn't that important. All right, moving on. Next question.
Do you want really quick? You have people. Do you want anyone to say where they're from?
Sure. So we have a handful of people in here. If you can comment down where you are from state-wise, and if you are in junk removal, comment that with your name. If you're not, comment down what else you do, or if you're looking to start one.
Also, feel free to ask any questions that we may not answer.
Yeah, this whole live is a Q&A, so it doesn't even have to be business related. It could be personal. If I don't want to answer it, I just won't answer it. Or if you have any questions for Tanya, she's a property manager of 10 plus years at a large company. So she's dealt with the handling of teams. So it could even just be an employee question, business ops. She has a background in marketing, like a degree wise. So you can ask her questions about that. And then I was a former mover and I now do junk removal. So if you have questions about that, I can answer those.
Is that Fat Cat Junk Removal? That's
Yep.
Cool. That's a fun name.
I actually don't know where you're based out of, Troll Hunt. Okay. Westchester, New York. You know Westchester.
Yeah, I'm from Connecticut originally. My mom worked in Valhalla, Westchester. So I know Westchester pretty well.
See, we're all connected. Juan Ren. Thoughts on junk removal with a mid-sized trucks like a Ranger or Tacoma with a utility trailer built similar to yours? Biggest fear is quickly outgrowing the setup to the point it's hindering my jobs or progress. The only issue with mid-sized trucks is their weight capacity that they're able to tow safely. So I think Tacomas, they can pull like 4,000 to maybe 6,000 pounds if you get the tow package. Whereas like a full-size truck on average can pull around like 9,000 to 10,000 pounds. But I would start with what you have, if that's what you have set up already. It's okay to start with a smaller trailer and outgrow it. The good thing about outgrowing a trailer is you just go buy a bigger one when you have the proceeds. If you're, I wouldn't say it's ever going to hinder your jobs or progress per se, because if you're getting enough jobs that's becoming an issue, you just go upgrade when you have the cash available. But I guess it depends. In your case, you said utility trailer because I wouldn't go get a dump trailer with that kind of truck. But yeah, a utility trailer, those some wood sides. I wouldn't even go my route with the aluminum because they're aluminum built. It's not wood. I would start with wood and work your way up and do what you can. Fort Bragg, North Carolina, getting out of the military soon and preparing for the expansion of business. Nice.
You should talk a little bit though about how you got one axle and you wish you had gotten a double axle in the beginning, because that wasn't a big cost difference.
Yeah. So Juan, if you're getting a utility trailer, don't get a single axle like I did. It's not going to make any difference in your weight, but it will affect your jobs. So that's like one of the biggest mistakes I first made. I just didn't know anything about utility trailers, and I got a single axle, and the guys at the dealership never asked me what I'm using them for. And it's something that I found out afterwards, like, oh, I can only pull X amount of weight with the trailer itself. That sucks. And that's affected me as far as like getting real big, heavy jobs. Like sometimes I'll have to split it up into 2 loads for weight wise, or construction debris jobs. Like I have to kind of set myself a limit because my trailer can't pull that much weight. So I didn't even realize it at the time, but I got a 6.5 by 12 foot utility trailer, single axle for like, I think it was $29.35, and the guy brought me down to $24.35. But the double axle at the time was like 32 something. So it was literally $300 more for what would have solved all my problems. So don't make my mistake. Even if you get a mid-sized truck, I would still get a double axle. Just be like weary of how much weight you're putting in it.
Troll Hunter. I love White Plains. FYI, we used to go out there a lot. So to some of the bars out there. So it's a fun spot.
I have no idea what White Plains is.
I'll bring you sometime. I'm trying to get Chris up north, but he hates the cold, so I'm limited to when I can bring him.
Yep. All right. So next question from the community page was from Silver Fox Finance. He's another regular. He asked, what's your solution to capital constraint? Start small and only with cash, or obtain a small or large loan, or a 0 APR credit card to invest in the business after it's proof it's profitable. So what I would do is slightly different from what I did, but what I would do is start small with cash and build into that for a couple of months until you know that it's profitable enough to actually buy something that's, potentially a couple $1,000s. So when I started off, I was still working part-time as a professional mover, and I would do the U-Hauls. I had one right down the street from my apartment building. Like, I had a dolly and a hen truck already, but you can rent them from there as well. They're like collectively less than $20 for both items. So what we talked about in the first question, if you guys were here back then, was when you first start off and you're trying to do it on a budget, focus on places like social media, like Nextdoor and Facebook, and wait until you get a job, schedule it, and then go schedule a U-Haul and reserve it for that time, and then go take care of the job. And you can literally get everything from them, drop it all off, and you're back to zero. And then you just set aside your profit each time. So you work on time or money management along with keeping things frugal and cheap in the beginning. Try to donate or consign in the shop everything you get, so you're not having to spend so much on disposal fees, because if you don't live in Florida, there's a good chance your disposal fees are kind of high. So I would probably start with that and start small, work your way up. If you realize after a couple months, okay, I could probably push this a little farther, I personally would look into a 0 APR credit card. I know some people are against credit cards when it comes to business, even though it's kind of a necessary tool. But I would look into that before a loan. And that's just my opinion. But that way it gives you time to really just buy what you need. If you know that based on the first few months, you're going to have money coming in that you can pay that off and not let it accumulate to where it gets out of hand. But Tanya is a much more financial savvy person. So I'm going to let her answer her part of that.
I mean, I think you're right. Like, when it comes down to whether taking out a loan or a credit card, like if you can apply for a small business grant and you can get access to those funds, then of course that's the best way to go, I would feel like. But obviously that's a really competitive market and a lot of people are looking for those grants. So sometimes it's really hard to get one. But if you needed some capital, or if you had really low capital, obviously renting or leasing, isn't ideal. But upgrading to a truck or doing what Chris did with U-Hauls is some small way to go in the beginning. At least, you have the job kind of secured before you pay for the truck. And I think that's really smart. Even though it's not as profitable, it's a great way to start and get some funds just to the point where you can start paying for a truck. But I think junk removal is a great business to start with when it comes to having not a lot of capital, because there's not as much overhead as, let's say, a moving company or some other fields. So really just kind of chiming back off what you said, Chris, is using a 0% APR credit card. It's really smart. Getting a few jobs and then saving money from that. And then if you can't afford like a down payment on a truck and trailer, going to U-Hauls as he secured jobs and saving 20-30% from each of those jobs towards upgrading.
Good job.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much got profit first time.
Yeah.
So that was Silver Fox's question. Oop, I'm about to erase that. So the next one was Set the Play with the E. And this is also on the community chat. He asked, you may have answered these before, so sorry if you have. How did you build the side walls on your trailer? Do you feel like a single axle trailer is fine to get started? And what is the minimum size trailer you would recommend?
That's a good question.
So, it says ads are running for some people. Sorry if you're watching an ad right now. I didn't know how to turn that off. I wonder if we should wait now until people get back. 37 seconds. A long ass ad. I didn't know you did ads during live streams. I've never seen it. Okay, Joel's not getting any ads.
Okay.
All right, we're just going to pretend everyone's not getting ads. So the sides I have on my trailer, I've talked about it before, but they're aluminum. So I was going to do a wood build at one point, but I was looking at the cost and the weight factor. Weight was a big one too, because wood adds up in weight fast. If you do a good build, I'm not talking like just 2 pieces of plywood on the sides and run a ratchet strap and it's kind of like this when you're driving down the highway. But I would do like an actual like 2x6 board or 2x10 even, and just stack them up on the sides, fasten all in with 2x4s, maybe even 4x4 posts at the front and back for wind securement. And I mean, you got to think you're going to be piling stuff in there. It's going to break down over time. You want it to be secure, but that alone can add up a lot in weight. I think a single 3/4 piece of plywood that's like 4x8 feet is like 96 pounds or something like that. You don't feel it when you pick it up because they're so big. It's like weight distribution, but it weighs almost 100 pounds. So if you get, let's say, 4 of those on your trailer plus 2x10 pieces of wood, that's a lot of weight. So I had this idea. My brother he owns a fabrication and welding business. And I brought the trailer over to him one day and I was like, hey, can you build me like sides on this? And that's what it is. It's aluminum, so it's lightweight. The front ends, those black parts, is solid steel and it's to help prevent like wind mitigation. And then the inside kind of lips over like that so it doesn't flail out on its own. But all of that, I think, is 624 pounds or something for the whole build, which is like a quarter of the weight if it was wood. And I mean, cost-wise, it's a little bit more expensive, but it also stands up to time. Plus, it allowed me to get a wrap on it, which I think is drastically better than doing paint. I'm not against paint. I'm actually contemplating doing my next trailer in wood, but the paint, every time it gets worn down or tear it up, you'd have to refix it, and it's just a pain. So that's how I did the build on my side of the trailer. So you'd have to find a fabrication shop and say, hey, I'm looking to get built. You can show them a picture of my trailer if you want, and see what they can give you price-wise. I would not do a single axle trailer. We just talked about that. That's one of the biggest mistakes I made with my trailer. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have nearly half the problems I have now. I just don't have the room for a second trailer, which is why I never upgraded over the years. But don't do a single axle. A double axle is literally like $300 more. Just stick with it. Minimum size trailer, realistically, you can get started with anything and like work your way up. The smaller the trailer, the cheaper it is, especially if you go used. But I would say a 6.5 by 12 would be an ideal starting point. It's going to give you about 12 cubic yards, depending on how high your sides are. But that kind of puts you a little bit in range of some of the franchises. Like 1-800 Got Junk, they claim that they're 8 feet wide, 10 feet long with 5-foot sides. They're not quite 8 feet wide. They're actually closer to like 6.25 feet. I've measured multiple vehicles just for fun. So they're actually a little closer to 300, I think it's 324 or 330 cubic feet, which is just barely over 12 cubic yards, because I'm like right at 12 cubic yards. But like 14 to 16 is kind of the average for those bigger franchise trucks. So I think if you can get close to 12, you're kind of within the pool before it's like you don't need to drop your pricing down too far. And like I can fit a decent amount of stuff on my trailer. I can clean out, it's going to be packed, but I can fit quite a bit on there. But that's not the minimum size, but that's what I would aim for, like minimum wise. It's basically a $2,500 to $3,000 trailer. I did filter out a few of the questions from Instagram because they're repeats, or there's stuff I literally talk about in every single video. A lot of them are pricing videos, or pricing questions, which we've talked about why we don't do pricing, but actually I'll answer one of them. So I had somebody answer or ask me on Instagram about pricing as far as how to set up their pricing. So what I would say to start with is, depending on your area, try to find some franchises, give them a call. They likely won't give you like a breakdown of their costs, but if you just say, hey, I think I'm going to have like a full load worth of stuff. I've used junk removal in the past. Can I just get like a general idea of where your guys' full load is at? So I know to tell my cousin how much it's going to cost to clean out our parents' house. Just lie, but make it sound like you're kind of educated about junk removal. I think they'll be more likely to give you the answer because it doesn't sound like you're just shopping around. But I would start there. If you can get what a full load price is, I think that's going to be your best bet before anything else. Because what that's going to tell you is your ballpark of where your pricing is going to be. So some areas in the US, like the more countryside areas, their full loads are like $300 to $400 for a 12 to 15 cubic yard truck, which is pretty cheap. But then you go to places like California and they're like $900 to $1,200 for a 13 to 14 cubic yard truck. And then New York is like $900 to $1,100. And then North Carolina is like $600 to $700. And Florida's kind of sits around like $550 to $650. So if you can find out what your full truck price would be and then bring it down just a notch because you're not a franchise, I would start from there. Most minimum pickups start around like $100. I would start your first increment. If you're just starting off, I would do quarters. That's easiest. So quarter, half, 3/4 full. And I would do, let's say if your full load was like 500, I would start your minimum like around 2 to 240. Have your minimum pickup like around 100. And realistically, if you were to pick up something that kind of falls in between, just kind of pick a number in between, like do like $50 increments basically. So like your quarter truck could be, let's just say 225. Your half a truck could be like 360. And then your full load would be like 485. And then your 3/4. Your full load would be like 550. So it's a small little like up and down progression. It's not just like if your quarter load is 200, you don't just go 2, 4, 6, 8. Everyone does like a mild progression. Usually the smaller the load, actually the more expensive it is because it helps cover your cost for having to go out to do the job. The bigger the job is, you're already there handling stuff. That's usually when it actually gets cheaper. It's a weird setup, but that's the way they do it. So I would start with that and then just find little increments. They don't have to be super far apart. You don't want to, like, you want to be able to upsell people. If you go to the job and you say, I think it's going to be 1/4 of a load, and maybe they have just enough that it's just barely pushing them over that quarter mark, but they're not quite at a half, let them know, hey, if you want to add on like 2 items the size of like a refrigerator, I can push you up to half of a load, which is only an additional $100 versus if I have to come back, that quarter load all over again is going to be $225. So you actually save $125 just by doing this right now. So it's kind of like a sales tactic.
That's really smart.
That's why the franchises like 1-800-GOT-JUNK and College Hunks and Junk King, some of those big guys, they do like increments of 12 and 16. That's a lot of price points, but that's why they do it, because they'll tell someone, hey, you're at 5/16 of a load right now. If you want to get pushed to whatever 6/16 is, it's an additional $35 upcharge, and you can add on the size of a small chest. Somebody's going to look around their house and try to find something to get rid of on the spot. And realistically, it's not going to do any damage to you profit-wise, like as far as dumping or disposing, but it is going to give you an additional $35 for 30 seconds of your time. So it's just a good way to upsell. So I wouldn't make your increments too drastic, but you do want them enough to where, based on that size and how much your anticipated weight's going to be, your charging is going to cover your costs, especially if you're not high in the area with high dump fees. But I would start with that. And then for the first month or two, I wouldn't worry about really doing surcharges per se, but eventually you're going to want to start charging for if you have stairs, if you have even elevators. I tell people all the time, elevators are no faster than stairs. They're just easier. To get bigger pieces in the elevator, to wait for people to go first. The elevator comes down from the 5th floor to the 2nd floor that you're on. All of a sudden, there's people in there. You have to let them go. So now you have to wait. Elevators are not the easiest or not the quickest, but they are easier. You don't have to physically go downstairs. But eventually, you're going to want to charge 10, 15, 20 bucks per flight of stairs. So if they're on the 3rd floor, you're going to knock on an extra 20, 30, 40 bucks. If they're in a high-rise building on the 20th floor, I think College Hunks charges $5 per floor. So if they're on the 30th floor, it's going to be an extra 150 bucks. If you have a long walk, maybe you have to park far away, or you have to go through a parking garage to get to the building to go up to the 30th floor, and it's taking you 10 minutes per trip, you charge extra for the time for the walk. Or if you're having to bag up stuff or clean out cabinets, you charge extra for time. And then you charge in addition to volume. Maybe if you have a heavy item fee, like if you're picking up a bunch of marble or granite, or the thing I hate the most is glass. If you get really thick glass, inch thick glass, you get a dining room table that's 5 feet wide. That thing weighs 250 pounds, but it takes up no more room than a picture frame does. And you get a couple of those on your trailer, and all of a sudden you're at half a ton of weight, and it's collectively the size of a chest and even smaller than that. So there's a lot of surcharges you can add in, but I would start with the increments, try to figure out what works for you price-wise and what works for your area so you're competitive still, and then just slowly add in those little extras over time. But I have a lot of pricing videos, so you can always check that out.
Who got this one?
Sherry?
Yeah.
I was waiting for that. Anyone have any questions before we keep going? Because this next one's a more loaded question. Do you have any questions, Tanya? Or anything you want to say about property? Oh, actually, I could ask her questions about property management. If you guys have a question in the meantime, comment below. But I'm going to ask Tanya a question because she's a property manager, and I had to deal with that in the beginning anyways. So, Tanya, when it comes to property management, I think everybody has some anxiety when they walk into a new place as a business to solicit themselves, even though there's no soliciting. And we're trying to think of things to say, or maybe we're not familiar with the problems to solve. What would you recommend? What would you expect if somebody was to come in and introduce themselves as a junk removal business? What do you think, if they were to say this, that you would be okay, I'd consider it, versus just blowing them off? What kind of points should they mention? What should their pitch be? What would you recommend?
So, I think most people, there's so many different types of salespeople that come in. Like I said, when vendors come to kind of give their pitch, some people just drop their cards off, not even say who they're from, just kind of give their cards. Some people want to create an appointment and say I need time with you to just go over stuff. And we hate, from my experience, property managers hate that. We don't want an appointment. You'll know if we want an appointment. Well, we'll ask you for an appointment. Yeah, don't try to make one with us. We'll tell you if we want one. But what I've seen that really kind of grasp a lot of people, or I know that's a good way to just kind of talk, is really to talk about a partnership a vendor contract opportunity, or providing a service to the residents that's free for the property to provide the service, but the residents can pay for it. And like I said, giving a solution to a problem that they have. So if I were, with Chris and we were going to property management companies and kind of giving our spiel, first, it depends if there's a concierge or if there's like a leasing consultant, because people always ask for the property manager, but they never explain why. And so I would personally say, go and say like, hey, like, I'm a local junk removal company and I've worked, and you don't want to lie, but you can say like, I've worked with properties in the area before, whether that area is like 2 towns over or you did like one job. You can kind of give that grasp without lying. If you've never done a job before, I wouldn't say it. But just saying like I've done work before and had a really good experience with, either property A or B or with this area. And I wanted to just come see if my services could be needed for this property. I'm not sure if you guys already have like a vendor set up or if you work exclusively with a certain junk removal company, but we provide bulk removal services to your residents or to the property itself. And then you can kind of just say like, from there, do you know who would be the best person to speak about that, and say like, in my experience, usually the property manager or someone on your maintenance team usually knows, is anyone from that side available, or if you have a coordinator for the property that handles your contracts with vendors. And if you're talking like that and you're saying those words, a lot of people in the property management industry will be like, okay, they clearly have experience with other properties. They might know what they're talking about. Let me just get their information, and they either will actually pass it along or they actually will let you speak to the property manager. So that's a nice way in. Sending also like a follow-up email, if you didn't get to talk to anybody, kind of sticks out. And then also some things that people don't realize they can offer. If you do have a marketing budget, or if you have like, it could be small funds, but if you say like, hey, I would love one day to come in and talk to residents about like recycling or bulk removal services, or how to spring cleaning tips, like if you wanted to drop off brochures or something like that. People love that. Properties love free events for the residents that they don't have to schedule. So even if you're like, I want to bring coffee and donuts one morning and just have a booth out in front of your lobby, just giving residents opportunities to learn a little bit more about junk removal or decluttering. You could use different terms, so this doesn't sound like junk, but saying, how to swap out furniture, things like that, and help them. Or if you have any events coming up, if you have like some type of budget, offering to bring maybe drinks like wine, some type of wine, that would be really great too. So those are the type of things I think will set you apart when you're going marketing, and it's free marketing. It doesn't cost anything. If you do want to set up an appointment, I would set up, I wouldn't waste my time setting up appointments with property managers. To be honest, like you could get some business, but you really would want to go general manager and up. A property manager is probably only going to have that or 2 other properties, and they can connect you with the right people. But at the end of the day, they're so busy. They're not scheduling like, one-on-ones with vendors that often. Sometimes you can do it, but I think providing services more to the residents or giving them the opportunity to ask you the questions that they may have for solutions. You can even ask them like, do you mind if I check your junk or your trash area and see how that is? And if you see like a mattress, say like, how long has that mattress been here? Like, does the city come and pick it up? How do you guys usually handle that? And if you really are hands deep and you're talking like their industry, they're more likely to give you the time of day. So that's my spiel for properties.
Plenty of information there. Silver Fox said, busy tonight, but wanted to show support. Well, actually, I just entered your question, Silver Fox, but thank you for checking by. Juan Ren asked earlier, there are too many brands of trailers to name. For each person has different uses. Which 3 brands stand out to you the most? I'm thinking longevity, quality control, etc. I actually don't know anything about trailers as far as brands go. I just found a local dealer near me that does trailers, and they usually will have landscape, dump, utility, and ones that already have like pre-built sides to them. So, I mean, this one, a lot of their trailers are called Big Tex, TEX. I don't know if that's a brand or if that's just the dealership brand. I really don't know. But I don't know, like, to my knowledge, a lot of them have, like, they don't have trailers that just fall apart quickly, except for maybe, like, if you get a dinky one from, like, Harbor Freight or something. I think any, like, actual trailer is going to hold up pretty well, as long as you don't overload it or, you know, hit too many curbs with it and screw up the axle and whatnot. So can't super answer that question there, but that's what I would recommend. Find your local trailer dealer, go walk around and ask some questions about brands. Maybe they'll have a recommendation. Junk Squad, uh-oh. I got the big boys in here. Saying hello, keep up the good work. Thank you, sir.
Hi.
Silver Fox, I'll have to check back on later.
That was the answer to your last statement to him.
Yeah.
Or her. Thank you.
All right. So another question from the community page was from Sherry0010. She's a regular as well. She asked, where do you want to be in 5 years and 10 years? She didn't specify business or personal, so I guess I will answer both. I'm sure whatever answer, Tanya's not going to be happy with it.
Don't say that.
So in 5 years, I would anticipate by then, if I'm still doing junk removal, I would expect to have at least a crew to run the trucks for me, and I can be off the truck running operations, networking, marketing, doing the background operation things. And by then, maybe even, you know, depending on how things are going, hire out somebody to handle that. And I really back off and focus on networking, because for me, networking has been kind of fun. And it's a good way to just connect with other people, get new ideas, and learn more about other businesses you could do while doing this. I also would like to look into another stream of income business-wise that doesn't involve labor, which is challenging. Otherwise, I would have done that before I did junk removal. But it's something to look into. Personally, that's a loaded question. But the 10-year mark for business, I can't answer that one, because I would have to get to the 5-year mark first to see where things are going. But Tanya, where's your 5 and 10 year question for? I guess we'll keep it professional.
So I would like to be financially independent by 10 years and have the ability to work with Chris at a leisurely level in the sense of helping with the marketing and, pick and choose which jobs I want to help on. And then for 5 years, I would like to have boots on the ground. So whether it's helping in the field or helping on the admin side, just kind of a mixture of both. So I think for me to join him would be great within the next half decade. So just professionally. Did you like my answer?
Yeah.
I didn't mind your answer.
I don't know about like just choosing to work with me leisurely whenever you want. That's not how
In
that
10
works.
years, yeah. I'll just join you when I feel like it.
Not how that works.
What do you mean?
You don't get to pick and choose.
You'll have a
when you
whole
work.
team.
You don't get to pick and choose when you work.
I just will be the networking person.
Grant Guavero. I recognize the name, but I haven't seen him on a comment in a while. Hello from Venice, junk removal in Venice, Florida. God, I forgot where Venice is. I think that's Tampa. I could be wrong.
I have no idea.
It's either Florida or Orlando. Or not, Tampa. Yeah, it's the West Coast. How's it going on the West Coast after the hurricane? I've heard that it's still kind of backed up in some areas, like Sarasota, or not Sarasota. Maybe it is Sarasota. I've heard there's still places in effect from that hurricane. Is that something that you were able to get in on? Or is that something that like the big guys were handling? Because I've heard a lot of people got contracted out from the east side of Florida to go to the west side of Florida just to help. And I always wondered how that worked, like legal wise, if something were to go wrong or whatnot. So let me know if you had any partake in any of that fun stuff besides just residential. Yeah, it's over by Sarasota. Maybe I'm thinking Clearwater got hit really hard. Oh. All right, so a couple of other questions I've gotten from Instagram that I can remember off the top of my head was marketing wise, like what's the best thing to market in the beginning, what's to market like later on, when to do Google ads, when to do Facebook ads, and if they recommend Yelp ads and whatnot. So just south of Sarasota, most of the larger trucks took care of that. We got hit pretty hard in Inglewood and Northport, just south of us. Okay, I had a feeling if like the bigger guys took care of that. Huh. Was it more flooding for you, or was it just overall destruction? Because I'm born and raised in Florida, so very familiar with hurricanes. So like even like some of the bad ones, like oftentimes it's more flooding than anything else. Like we'll get like a tree branch, like a large tree branch here and there, or a smaller tree will fall. But I haven't seen anything like really bad since we had like Charlie, Francis, and Gene all like in the same year, and I was in like 5th grade back then, so that's been a while. So for marketing, some of you may know I don't pay for marketing as far as ads go. I have always either done social media, card handouts. I go by places like apartment buildings, storage units, senior living facilities was like a big thing that I got onto not last year, but the fall before that. And then I also will, what else do I do? Yard signs here and there, realtor offices. We actually just went to one a couple of days ago. We're going to be going again tomorrow morning. We just bring by little candy dishes of like Christmas mints and candy canes, throw a stack of cards in the middle. We're stopping by a few places that I've been like repetitive work at all year. Not just like I've been there once or twice. Like if I'm there like almost on a monthly basis, we're going to be bringing by like a little container of fresh baked cookies from this Italian bakery down the road from me. And then we'll just stick like one card in there and just saying like Merry Christmas, just for like their front of house staff. So I'll network to those professional buildings because for me, it opens up the range the best. Like if you market to one property manager, you're technically marketing to 200 to 300 people because all you have to do is put your cards out by the front desk of the lobby, or they do an email blast or something, or somebody comes downstairs and says, "Hey, I'm moving soon. Do you have any recommendations?" There's a place in one of the downtown cities that I've been there twice in the last 3 years. I dropped off cards each time, and I've had like 5 or 6 people get my card from their front office. They don't do anything with it. They just put it down in a drawer. If somebody asks, they open up the drawer, they give them a card. I didn't do anything to do that. So there's that. I would say move to Google Ads when you see a plateau in your general marketing. If you're staying on top of marketing all the time and it's just not getting busier, then maybe venture into Google Ads because that's going to tackle all of the people that aren't otherwise at those typical places you're already marketing to. So you're going to get your general resident now. So that's when I would do that, but make sure you're financially ready for that because that is not a cheap service. It takes some time to build traction, which could be a couple of $1,000s a month just to get to. And it's something you need to be consistent with. You need to constantly be upgrading your campaign, constantly editing your keywords, your negative keywords. And that's a whole mess of stuff. So Andrew Thompson from Jedi Junk Removal will be a good channel to check out to learn about Google Ads and what to do, what not to do, all that stuff. But I wouldn't do it unless you're really like financially capable.
Did you talk about like how that one candy drop led you to that big chop in November?
For
Jim?
Oh, yeah. So we went to a realtor office and like as we were getting out of the truck, the guy parked behind us and he got out and he's like, "Hey, junk removal," and asked us a question about it. I didn't know who he was. And eventually he was like, "Yeah, I'm a realtor." And I was like, "Oh, are you at the realtor of this office we're about to walk into?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, we're coming up with you." And like we were talking on the way up there with him, and he was like, "Yeah, I have a client right now I could have you guys do." And we sat down, we talked to him, talked to one of their brokers in the room. And that led me to a client who lives in my city who had the hoarder 2-bedroom apartment building that I had been filming. It was doing like the one-on-one decluttering. That ended up being like almost $4,000 in total cost for that one job over a span of like a month. And it was just from stopping by at good timing. It's all it is. That's where luck comes in. It's like, it's just good timing sometimes.
What's preparation meets opportunity.
Preparation meets opportunity.
If you didn't always do that marketing consistently, at some point it was about to hit or come.
Yeah. And then we ran to the wife at like a different networking event thing that I do. And then we like went to her event like the next day and met some other people. And that's all it is. It's networking. You meet one person, eventually you run into them more than once. You start to build a relationship, and then you start meeting other people. And it's a good way to like really market your business, but still keeping it kind of fun and social.
You also got added to Keller Williams, like the vendors list, because they have like a special concierge service where they offer it to their clients, and it's different services, but he got added as like the junk removal person for those services, which is also a great connection.
That's true.
Yeah.
Grant said, mostly flooding, had friends who were trapped in their houses. Pretty scary.
Oh, that was scary.
Sorry. Yeah, I haven't had that. Like we've had, so like when I grew up, our house sat on a little bit of like a hill. So like the driveway went, and we've had like flooding come to like the front door. Like you couldn't see the end of the driveway at all. Like the mailboxes, like you can't see the mailbox. You can't see the street. The whole street's just water. And like the flooding will start at the house, and like we'll have to put sandbags by the doors. And you would think that like on an elevation like that, you wouldn't have that problem. But hurricanes will prove you wrong. So definitely understand, not that much, but I've had something like that. He said, definitely need to reduce and spend on Google in favor of in-person marketing. Currently spending about 1.5K a month, but definitely has been worth it as far as coming up on people's Google searches. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great tool to use. And I just think where people go wrong is they'll put like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 into it right off the back, thinking that like that's what they need to do. And they won't pull back enough to make that 3, 4, 5 grand to pay for it. So you're basically in the negatives from the very beginning. And they'll slowly just think like, oh, okay, well, it's going to get better over time. But if you're putting, let's say, 5 grand a month into it, and let's just say you don't realistically have the 5 grand to really be spending, but you think it's going to work. If you do that for 3 months thinking it's going to build traction, that's $15,000. And if you're not making that back and then some to pay for the rest of your business, that's a problem. And like I've had Jedi tell me multiple times that, you expect the first 3 months, whatever you put in, just expect it to just go down like the drain, because you need that first 3 months to even get you on the map traction wise with Google. So he was telling me like at the bare minimum, you need to be doing like $50 a day, but ideally $100 a day. So that's the difference between $1,500 and $3,000 a month in just one marketing tool. So it's definitely a lot, which is why I haven't done it yet. You should definitely go on the Trash Talk Business podcast. The co-hosts have been enjoying. Trash Talk. Isn't Trash Talk Andy Weens or Andy Weiss? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Andy. Okay, I know Andy. Yeah, I've watched a few of those. Will you upgrade to a dump trailer ever? If so, what size? I actually am going to be getting a new trailer. It was going to be on Monday, but now it might be on Tuesday. It's not going to be a dump trailer, though. So I've been going – YouTube has been telling me to do a dump trailer since I opened business. Everyone thought I can't say that word on YouTube Live. everyone thought I was stupid for getting a single axle, which I did screw up, I admit. But they also are like, why don't you have a dump trailer yet? So I have my cons about for dump trailers. I don't even have to own one to know it. Do I think it's going to be drastically easier to dump at the dump each time? Obviously. But hear me out. And you really have to hear me out for this. Okay?
Being serious. I just step out of frame.
Especially as someone who runs things solo for now and is planning on doing that a little bit here and still. Like I do plan on getting people in next year, but just hear me out. A dump trailer starts off on, I think it's 26 to 28 inches on average. Now you can get ramps for them, but they're not usually like dolly friendly ramps. And I can get one custom made by my brother who did the trailer sides on mine. But even then, it's tough to find somewhere to put it. It'd have to be long enough that I can still get a speed pack up it. I see it as more of a burden for the loading process. Weight-wise, it's an issue because it's already taken out a third of my overall weight capacity for towing. On top of that, it is going to cost an additional $8,000 more than what I could do with my trailer, including the side and the wrap. And then in addition to that, it's going to cost more insurance-wise because it is now a second mechanical item. And I just see it being more of a problem because I don't do a lot of construction debris. I do more household. I get construction here and there. And yeah, it sucks to have to offload. But I've never taken more than like 10, 15 minutes to offload my trailer at the dump unless I'm taking my time. So I don't have the issue of sometimes I wish, it'd be nice to have a dump trailer, just dump all this shit out. I don't want to pick up boxes of books left and right and do it all over again. But I see more cons than I do pros. And a lot of that has to do with the loading process. It's loading. It's if I stop at a donation place, everything has to be at the end and I'm going to have to sit there and lift it off just to give to them. Or if I want to stop by and drop it off at storage to try to sell, same thing. I have to lift it off versus just grab a dolly, take it off, put it down, go back on. Like it is such a smooth process with the utility trailer that I think that outweighs the dump trailer purposes. The only good thing about it I see is the dumping factor, which again, I don't do a lot of debris jobs in my area. Debris isn't like the greatest thing to market for because we have a crap ton of contractors down here and nobody likes paying those fees. So that's my 2 cents on it. As long as I have a double axle, realistically, that's all I need. I think running a utility and a dump trailer would be beneficial. Could tailor the trailer to a job. I rent dump trailer once in a while for ease of use and do a lot of construction debris.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to have a dump trailer when it comes to construction debris jobs. And like if you can rent it and if you have that type of job, you could just technically rent one. But most of your jobs are residential.
Yeah, like I could count on two hands the amount of true construction jobs I've had this year. Like actual jobs, not just like a couple pieces of wood here and there. Huh. Where do you rent it from? A dealership or from somebody you know? It says $80 a day.
That's not bad.
I wonder how that works insurance-wise because it wouldn't be under... I guess would your commercial insurance cover it temporarily as like a rental?
Yeah. Because like if you rent a car, your insurance covers it, like personally.
Something to consider. I have a single axle 6.5 by 12, 28-inch utility trailer. I tow with the Tacoma. Most of my loads are only 1 ton. Thanks for answering. Oh, I thought you were being passive aggressive when you asked me. Most people are passive aggressive when they ask me. Yeah, so you pretty much have the same size truck I do, except I have 4-foot sides and it looks like you have 28-inch sides. Although with your Tacoma, do you ever have problems towing wise? Because we had a previous person, was it Juan? Yeah, Juan from earlier asked that question. He said he had a mid-sized truck, if it would be a problem towing. So I know with Tacomas, your typical tow capacity is like 5,000 to 6,000 pounds, give or take. So I kind of wonder, like, if you're ever pushing that too much or not. I don't know. Yeah, I just see I think once you have a double axle, that's the main thing. You just need to be able to handle that weight. And I even have this too. I don't know if you see my channel, Donato. I think Donato. It's really a small screen. I don't know why it's so small. I use speed packs, which are these like giant open end commercial bin boxes, and you slap them right on top of a 4-wheeler dolly, and you can fill them up with like 400 or 500 pounds worth of stuff, and they can be just fine. I've had this idea with this new trailer is if I just always have like 4 to 5 speed packs on hand for construction jobs, I have a lot of dollies that I've gathered over time. I can literally fill up a box full of construction debris, wheel it right onto the truck, strap it off. Next trip, strap it off. I can fit up to 6 speed packs in the trailer comfortably. In my current one, the next one I'm getting is actually a 6.5 by 14. So I'll have a little bit extra wiggle room for my equipment. But I don't fill the truck up anyways with construction debris. I fill it up halfway, or like 2 feet, so halfway. So I was even thinking speed packs, just fill it up, wheel it on. I get to the dump, I wheel it off, tip the box forward because the weight was going to push the box itself once it falls off the dolly. And it's almost going to kind of mimic a dump trailer, but without the cost and make it a lot easier to load. Let's see. Grant said, I know 2 excavation companies who have 3 dump trailers. Super good friends to have.
Yeah, sounds like it. For 80 bucks a day.
It's an unfair thing to have. Yeah, I mean, if I could find somebody to rent it from, what I do is if I get a really big construction job that I'm like, I'm not even going to bother with it, I'll pawn it off to some of the other guys I've met through YouTube that are in my area. The NATO 3,500-pound trailer loaded.
That's good.
Yeah, I guess you would technically be within range. I just wonder if you got like, if you were to get a dump trailer though, dump trailers empty are like already 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. So to then add on top of that, like let's say a ton of weight, your truck's going to be overloaded each time. And that's going to just destroy a truck. Not to mention braking is always a problem. I don't know where you're from, but if you ever deal with snow or rain or steep or windy roads, that would be an issue. Do you have anything else to add, Tanya?
No, I'm just looking at your YouTube views, and they're really high on some videos.
They're also a year old. All right. Well, if anyone has any other questions, comment them down below. Otherwise, we're probably going to hop off in about 5 minutes. I need to go get a Christmas tree. I definitely spent way more in gas towing the dump trailers, though. I've pulled 16K in my 2500 in Syria. Definitely doesn't go far, but breaks well. Yeah, I mean, I guess with dump trailer, well, I guess any double axle, realistically, they have the dual brakes attached as well to help with that exact purpose. 16,000 pounds, though. Can't even imagine. I've driven with 16,000 pounds in a moving truck, which we're not supposed to, but never for dump. Surprised you don't get Christmas trees during dump removal. Not yet. In a couple of weeks, I'm sure we'll have them. Would be a good way to save. I don't know how much it is in your area, but I haven't bought a Christmas tree. My dad always bought them. My mom never got them. She always got the artificial. But I remember trees the last time that I had one in my house, it was like $50. We went to a place the other night. For a 3-foot tree, it was $85. For a 5 to 6 foot tree, they were at $125. And then if you wanted a 7 to 8 foot tree, they were $150. And then it went up from there. And I was like, fuck that. I'm not getting a Christmas tree for 3 weeks for $125.
Yeah. We got 2 little ones off a job recently, but they're like tiny little things. We wanted a regular size tree.
Yeah, I have 2 trees right now in the garage that are 3 foot. And then we might have one in the attic that's 4 foot, but I don't know.
Yeah, they're ridiculous prices.
I'm sure I'll end up with a bunch of them in like 3 weeks. I wouldn't go any bigger. There are a lot of guys who tow dual axle dump trailers here. Southern California, okay. So yeah, you don't have to worry about snow or really rain even for that matter. How long have you been in business, Donato? I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I'm just spelling it out.
My bad.
Texting?
My call.
Let me go into call.
Okay.
March will be 1 year. Nice.
I'll say bye.
Okay. Tanya has to go call her dad back. So she's going
Bye.
to leave. And we'll probably be getting off. Take your Kubuka with you that you didn't drink.
You drink some of it.
Damn. Now your dad's calling me. Get on top of your shit, Tanya. All right, Tanya's gone. So, all right, March will be 1 year. Do you have a website? What's your name of your business? I'll come check it out. Definitely need to do more of these Q&As. You know, you say that, but I don't have a ton of people on here. But I figured, like, I have so many people, especially on Instagram, they message and ask me questions about, like, non-business stuff. They're just curious. And I'm like, I feel like there's other questions you could be asking me. But we'll do one probably in a month or two. I have a couple of lives coming up. I just did one with Reese Langton. And then I think Andrew from Jedi wants to interview me. And then I plan on doing some interviews soon with my original goal when I hit 1,000 subscribers was to be interviewing people like once a month of like different professions to get an idea of how they think and how they operate their business. Because at the end of the day, all businesses are the same. We all market, we all have customer problems, employee acquisitions, logistics, like everything we do is the same. We're just tackling a different skill set and pushing for a different trade. So I thought it'd be cool to interview different people of different levels, different income streams, like people who make $1 million plus a year versus people who make, 10, 30, 50,000. And I thought it'd be like a cool, just inner perspective. Like I did the one with my friend who owns a gym that does self-defense and like gun training and defending against knives and stuff. Like me and Tanya, well, I've been training with him for like 6 years, not consistently, but 6 years. And Tanya's done it a little bit too. But he's a really interesting guy and his business is pretty cool. But he's just the first and I haven't done anything since. So trying to find people to do that with, it's just a lot of planning to take someone's like hour away from them. All the people I know are busy. But I do plan on doing that a little bit more often. Thank you. I try. I originally started the YouTube just for I've always wanted to kind of do a YouTube channel because I always watched it like growing up. I just never knew like what to talk about. I always felt like you needed like a niche. Nowadays you can just do whatever you want. But like, 6-10 years ago, you needed to have something to do it with. So the way I started off, I was like, oh, well, maybe like how I do it would help somebody else. And that's basically what we started with. I didn't really have any other intentions with this. What are your thoughts about posting pricing online? That's tricky. I think I even did it for like a week. I edited my website to show my pricing. And like a week later, I was like, let's not do that. I think it can be good for people who just want the price right away and like they don't want to have to call you and beat around the bush and deal with it. But I also think that there's a strong negative in there for price shoppers. Someone's going to go look at your website, think, oh gosh, I wonder how much this is. And they're going to see the pricing and think, oh, never mind. Or they're going to be like, oh, okay, he's $195 for a quarter load. Let me go call the next guy. So you're basically just answering their question faster to move on to the next person. Whereas the whole idea of not having pricing online is to get that person to call you so that way you have them at least one step farther to a sale. So then you can try to convince them over the phone. So I don't think it's a terrible idea, but I think you have to be careful about it. Sherry, is that the same as Sherry 0101? We answered your question earlier if it is. Have you ever offered a client to do an estate sale for them on their premises? I'm toying with that idea. Do you mean like if I'm going to do a clean out and I say, hey, do you want to do a estate sale and then afterwards we do junk removal? Or are you trying to get some of the profit from it? Yeah, you missed Tanya. I had Tanya, my fiance, here with me. She was answering questions too. She might come back in when she gets off the phone with her dad. But we answered your where we want to be in 5 and 10 years. Yeah, for pricing Grant, I did do for a while. I would include like our minimum pickup and then say like it goes up from there. So like I've heard that's a common thing where like when you're explaining the pricing, we'll say, it depends on how much volume it takes up in the truck. And it starts at, let's say, 105 and then it goes up from there. And it goes in increment of quarters or eighths or whatever you do. So at least people have like a starting standpoint versus calling expecting it to be free. Like they already know no matter what, it's starting at $100-ish. So they know it's not going to be dirt cheap. I had somebody call me, what's today, Wednesday? I had somebody call me Monday night and they said, hey, I need to get rid of a 4-piece sectional couch plus an ottoman and then an additional section. I was like, so 5 section basically. Could just said 5 section plus an ottoman. And he was like, how much would that be to get rid of? And I said, well, like I started asking, is it a recliner? Like, is it like a electric or is it just like a push out? The pieces, is it like what floor are you on? All this, like I was just trying to figure out the logistics of it. And he said that it's an electric recliner, all of them except for the one middle piece. Usually it's a standalone. And then the ottoman is like the thing that pops up like out of place. So like it's like a little storage inside, which that means I just added like 50 pounds to it. And I told him that, all right, well, I would probably peg you around X amount. And he was like, oh, fuck that. I thought it was going to be closer to like $100. And I was like, who's picking up a 5-piece sectional couch that's all recliners for less than $100 for junk removal? He even told me too, he was like, yeah, it's like in terrible condition. The dogs chewed it up and everything. And I was like, at least tell me like it's in pretty good condition. I could resell it. But you're just jumping right to the crap and then telling me that like $100, more than $100 is too much money. So I gave him an alternative, like we talked about earlier in the live. I was like, well, if it's not too bad, you could try putting it on Facebook for free and let somebody come pick it up. But then he said he's in a high-rise building and that you can't just come get it. So I was like, well, sounds like you're out of luck there, bud. I never heard from him again. Your tip about the clips on the back of the sofas has amazed many of our clients. The clips on the back of the sofas. Oh, taking the back off. That's something that surprisingly people don't know about. I guess you wouldn't know about it unless you've had to move them before. But yeah, like to this day, every time I do that, I go step by and I lift up the flap and they're looking at me like, what are you doing? And all of a sudden it goes, and they're like, oh, they look at their husband, their wife, and they're like, never knew that happened. We could have did that before we moved it through a hallway. And people just don't know. I don't know if Tanya's coming back. Call her so I don't have to yell on the screen. I think Tanya's coming back. So if anyone has any final questions for Tanya before we have to go get our Christmas tree. Next purchase is going to be mattress bars. Definitely needed. Mattress bars honestly have been like a lifesaver for me. Like we had them at so I've worked at 2 moving companies. I'm not going to name them off, but I worked at one and that's where they had mattress bars. And then the second one didn't. And I told the manager so many times, I was like, you need to get mattress bars, especially with some of the dumb fucks you have working for you that just slide a mattress like on the gravel. You need to get mattress bars. And they just never did. But I didn't get them like right at first. It took me probably because I got used to not having them at the second moving company that I kind of just, it wasn't like a common thing for me anymore. So it took me a while to get it. And like once I got it, I was like, oh, I remember why this is so nice. Like it really is like just such a great tool. Like for something that small that you can pop on and off of any kind of dolly as long as it fits. And then you can basically load mattresses, tabletops, glass pieces, so you don't have to carry a big glass piece. You can load miscellaneous small stuff and just stick it in between. You can run a bungee around it, do whatever you want. I've stacked all kinds of stuff in there, and it's just one more tool for like moving stuff, especially long trips. Like I get some heavy king mattresses sometimes by myself, and it's a struggle to get them on there sometimes because they're so flimsy and thick. But once they're on, it just makes everything drastically easier. Like for some reason, whenever I get a thick king mattress, I'm always in an apartment building with like a long hallway. Got to go in this like elevator and then go back down. It's always a pain. Or like the adjustable electric beds from senior living facilities. Mattress bars are great for that. They're hard to find apparently though. Like I found a few on Amazon. I've linked in like in the description in the past, but they have like little screws in them, so you have to like either fasten them into the dolly, or they might just go in just enough to like kind of like build tension. I don't know entirely, but they are definitely best to be found at a moving like supply warehouse. George and or Jorge, good evening. Thank you for your time. You're welcome. I think Tanya is still on the phone. So, any more questions? Thank you, Grant. I'll let you know what kind of tree we get. I'll throw it in one of the videos that we have. She said that I think it's Home Depot or Lowe's. They're doing a sale right now. They're like $80 now versus like the $150. Gino, doing my first hot tub next week. Any tips? I'm not the person to ask that question because I've never cut up a hot tub before. I've moved them like I've moved 5 hot tubs in my life, moving. So like the idea was to not damage them. And we've always just taken it out on a 4-wheeler dolly. You get a piece of plywood to stick on the dolly just so it doesn't punch through the sides of the hot tub. But lay a blanket down, stand it up, which you want a second person unless you're really strong. I have lifted like a smaller hot tub by myself and done it myself. Wasn't fun. Customer was amazed. I was nervous, but I have done it. But stand up the hot tub on the side, assuming it's drained.
I'm coming back.
Yeah.
I took my shirt
off. And then stick the 4-wheeler underneath it. Tanya's back.
Hi.
Stick the 4-wheeler underneath it and kind of pin it up towards it, and then just kind of pull it back down, and just be really careful as you wheel it out to wherever it needs to go. But I've never cut one up before. My helper, who I've used on some of my jobs, he said it's pretty easy. You just get a Sawzall with a long blade and you just cut it down in like quadrants of 4, 6, 8, whatever. Just cut up however you need to. But not the best to answer that question. I have heard about you use what you got. So I have heard about what you use. I have a 13-foot box truck. Should I charge to half of the box since it's 8 feet tall? So for Jorge or George, you have to let me know which one. For a box truck, 13-foot box truck, I mean, that's pretty much what I used for. So I started off using the U-Hauls, and the 15-foot U-Haul was my go-to because it was the first size that has a ramp. And it was tall enough I could stand up in it without having to like go down a little. I always just filled it up as is. What I would tell people though, let me do the math really quick. You have a 13-foot box truck. Is that including the peak? I'm going to assume you're about 7-ish feet wide. So 728 cubic feet roughly. So yeah, you're about 27 cubic yards. What I would do, because it's such a larger size, this took me a while to do. So when I had the U-Haul and the 15-foot, I did just the truck itself at whatever pricing I had, which took me a year to realize these people are getting a great fucking deal because they're basically getting a truck and a half for the price of one. So eventually what I did was I raised my prices to accumulate a truck and a half worth of stuff. But what I found was that gave me issues because you would tell somebody, yeah, we have a truck that's twice the size of everybody else, but it's going to cost $1,100 versus $700. And they're like, oh, no, okay, hang up the phone. But what I have learned over time, if I had to go back and do it, I just didn't notice at the time, was charge as you would normally, but only fill like half the truck or only fill 3/4 of the truck. If your truck is 13 by 8, and I'm assuming about 7 feet wide, maybe 7.5 feet wide, I mean, realistically, if you were to cut that in half, that's about the size of a 1-800-GOT-JUNK truck. So you could honestly say, hey, we will like just tell them we'll come out and it's going to be a full load. Have the customer come out, look at the truck and say, hey, this truck right here, that is twice the size of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. So we're only going to be filling it up halfway. So I keep reading questions as I'm entering them and throwing me off. We're only going to fill up the truck halfway because that is what is technically a full load. And if we need to breach into that, then that's going to restart the load over again. But that way you're not having to tell people on the phone, yeah, it's going to be $1,100 to fill up our truck. You can just tell them it's going to be $600 or $700, but just let them know that we have a big truck. And you can even just say, we use it for, we do a lot of big commercial jobs. So we get a bigger truck to handle bigger jobs. It just works for us. It doesn't have to be super specific of like, I'm losing my train of thought. That's what I would do. I would just tell people your normal pricing, but when they get there to say, hey, it's only going to fill half the truck because our trucks are meant to handle 2 loads at once. We do a lot of big jobs.
Can I answer Grant's question?
Yeah. And YouTube, this is usually where I edit out my pausings. I can't do that on live.
For Grant's question, do you ever get hesitant throwing out a big estimate for fear of rejection? It automatically made me think, because this was my fault. We were on a job or an estimate recently, and it was a realtor getting like a quote for their client, and he's just joining too. And the realtor kind of explained the story. It was a couple that went to a senior facility, and what I thought was their daughter, but turned out to be their niece or cousin, was paying what I thought was paying for the job. So it was kind of almost like a clean out. And there was a good amount of furniture, but it was a pretty clean house. And Chris went, to the car to call the niece and give her like the estimate. And he I think it was in his mind, he put like $689 or something like that. And I was like, well, because it's a realtor referral, maybe you should give like a 10% discount or a returning like customer discount, because that number just sounded high to me. It was a lot of stuff. And that number just felt high, and I felt like because someone else was paying for it, that number would be not. And the realtor had mentioned that she's making a decision. She might call other people. And that just scared me because there was some furniture in the apartment that I was like kind of wanted. So I was like, make sure you get this job. And so he kind of stuck to his guns, and I'm really proud of him that he didn't listen to me. And so he called in and gave the price, and she was like, that's it? Really? Like, you sure? And I was like listening. I was like, damn it, we should have probably made it a little bit higher, not because she was willing to pay more, but because it was a long walk from the stairs to the apartment, and then from the bottom of the stairs to the actual trailer. We had to park kind of far, and it was actually a really hard job. So, after doing the work, I was like, geez, that amount actually doesn't seem like so much now, but because it was a second floor. But yes, I think sometimes it's scary to throw out a big number, but if you're confident for why that number is what it is, and you're not just throwing out a big number because you think you can get it, even if someone says no, at the end of the day, because I do it all the time. I hear people tell Chris no because of the number, and Chris respectively says okay because he knows that's what's needed to complete that job, and anything else would probably be like a loss of profit. So it's not worth it sometimes. So that's my spiel for Grant.
Yeah, if you like if you looked at my invoice app, and I can do invoices and estimates on the same app. I have over like $27,000 of quotes in there, and that's not all my estimates. That's just like the ones I sit there and actually make an invoice for. I've probably booked like half of those, maybe. Like the biggest estimates I've given, I have not gotten, and it's always kind of nerve wracking because you're like, wow, it'd be really nice to have this like $7,000 job, but there's just always going to be someone a little cheaper, or for some reason they're just not going to want to go with you. So I don't try to let it like get me down too far. Sometimes like I'll quote someone and like I'll charge like all my normal surcharges. Like I'll say, okay, well, you have a dresser with a granite top on top of it. I'm going to charge you an extra $25 for that because it's a heavy item. I might say, I have to go up to the third floor, or I have to go walk around the apartment complex to get to the back of the building to then go upstairs again. I'm going to charge a little extra for that. And let's say I told them like $550. And then they're like, yeah, I got a quote for $500. And in my head, I'm like, well, there goes my heavy item fee and my long walk fee. So if I didn't charge for that to try to maximize my profit, I probably would have gotten that job. But you also don't know who's saying that just to say it. I've caught people in lies before where they would tell me, oh, like, let's just say you're just a little bit off. And they're like, oh, can you come down just a little and meet the other guy? Like, you're already here. I like you more. Or I'll just have you. I'm like, okay, fine. If it's not like a big deal. And then I'll sit there and chit chat with them, like, through the job and find out that that guy never fucking existed. And that they were just trying to get me to come down to an even number, which is very annoying to hear in person after it all is said and done. But I guess when it comes to bigger jobs, I think some people see a big job and just start adding numbers to it. They just start adding things to it that don't exist. Whereas in reality, like if you go quote a 7-truck job, it should just be 7 of your normal full load trucks, unless there's anything specific to it that should alter the price. So it's no different than going to do 7 individual truckload jobs, except you're just doing it all at once. So it's more of a time saving factor. But it shouldn't affect, I think, you giving a quote in terms of like, oh, this is a big number. I don't know if they're going to take it. If you're in that ballpark and you're not just throwing out numbers, it's probably going to be what everyone else is going to be giving. And it's just a number.
Deep breaths.
It's just a numbers game at that point. Like if you give a quote for $12,000 for a commercial job, but you are true to your pricing and they're like, yeah, we've been getting quotes from everybody else and they just don't call you back, assume that somebody else probably told them 11,000 or 11.5 and you just didn't get it. But I would try not to be hesitant about it.
You also do this thing. I don't know if you already talked about it. I might have missed it, but if he gives you a big number out and they're like, whew, that's a little too hefty, Chris will be like, okay, well, I mean, I could take all these big pieces for you. Maybe you can get rid of this one piece that takes up this much space and you can reduce that number by this. Or, you have 20 bags here or bagging fees or whatever. Like if you can bag the stuff up and you just want me to take it, then that's different too. So like he works sometimes with people, not just to like lower the price, but to find ways to alter the job to make it affordable for them. So he's done that as well. And I've seen that change someone from like a no to a yes.
Yeah, I don't remember where I learned that from, but I've done that with like, if I go to a job and maybe they need to clean out like their closet and their pantry and maybe like half their kitchen or something, and they're in like a high-rise apartment building, and it's like, all right, well, for me to take it, if I don't have a speed pack, it's going to be a lot of trips. So I might say, well, I'll take all the big furniture and you can dispose of all the small stuff, whether it's through donation or just go to your trash chute and just throw down little bags one at a time. That's obviously going to save loading on my end. It's going to save volume. It's going to save a shit ton of time. Like I'll knock off $100+ depending on how much it is. And that's enough for someone to say, $100 coupon for me to spend an hour doing this, deal. And then you book the job for what it is and you just don't have to worry about all the little stuff. So
Jorge said either or for his name.
Yep. And then working with Adam, just wanted to say thank you from Northeast Ohio.
Ooh.
I don't know anything about Ohio. Do you have a junk removal business, Adam? Or is working with Adam a digital marketing, maybe? Or marketing? I'm trying to decipher off of your logo, which is like this small on my screen. Grant, would you say most of your jobs are half loads or less? I feel like half of mine are a quarter to half loads. Um, in the beginning, I did a lot of minimum pickups and a lot of quarter trucks, like a lot of them. I don't do a lot of them anymore. I would say, actually, in the past, like maybe 6 months, I'm probably on the half truck and up for my jobs. But I also don't do like 2, 3 jobs a day. So volume wise, it probably matches the same if somebody was to do a bunch of small jobs. And I mean, actually, smaller jobs are typically more profit worthy because if you do 4 quarter pickups, usually that's going to be a couple $100 more than what your full load would be. And you just go dump it all the same as if it was a full load. We were just getting started. You've been a lot of help.
Junk removal.
And you're in Northeast Ohio. What's the competition like in Ohio? Do you have a lot of franchises near you? Alex Villanueva, I recognize the name. Good evening. I've seen okay. But I can't remember if you said you have done paid ads or not. I have not. I've done Google ads like twice for like a month each. It's just to kind of try. Like I'll just throw in like $300 or something. But I haven't done them consistently or done any like ad campaigns or anything like that. It's something that I just think price wise, I'm just frugal enough that I don't want to do it, despite what it could be beneficial. Tuesday night streams with Ricardo. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, I saw your name somewhere. Yeah, I don't do Google ads. My intention was to do them for 2024 because for not doing Google ads, I get a lot of Google inquiries and Google call. Like people find me through Google, especially my city alone, because the way my county is, we're kind of planted right in the middle. And I actually don't have any franchises that have offices in my city itself. It's not a big city, it's very horizontal, but we don't have any franchises that have a physical location in my city. They're all around me. So on Google, I actually naturally rank semi high without having to really put for like high SEO or have to pay for anything fancy, and especially not Google ads. But because of that reason, my intention was to do Google ads just like $300-500 a month or something, but do a really small radius around certain areas of my city where I want to work versus like one great big radius where I'm going to be, tagging people who are on low income that are never in their life going to pay for junk removal, or, pinpointing, big blocks of forest areas and wetlands and stuff like that there's nobody living there. And I feel like you're just wasting like valuable space of the radius, if that makes sense. Still waiting for Adam to answer. Any more questions for the property manager?
Was there questions before?
Oh, you missed Sherry. I don't know if Sherry's still on here. Dang it, Tonya. Sherry's a regular. She's the one that asked 5 and 10 years.
Oh, yes.
She said, have you ever offered a client to do an estate sale for them on their premises? I'm toying with that idea currently. And I wasn't 100% sure what she meant.
You can go back. Let me just read it again. Have you ever offered a client to do an estate sale for them on their premises? I'm toying with that. I did. I never have, and Chris hasn't. It's not a bad idea. I don't think it's a big market that a lot of people do, and in our area, especially with a lot of people. I know there's a lot of estate sales happening, and people who manage that for whoever's house they're selling the stuff out of. But I think it's a good leeway into that business. But no, Never done it on the spot or thought of doing it on the spot. I guess when it comes to like providing junk removal services, when we're giving the quote, we kind of stick to the junk removal part. But it is something that, as Chris, he doesn't mention selling stuff because realistically, sometimes even on Facebook, people could throw that stuff out for free or sell it. And they, versus doing the junk removal. So there's not a lot of talking about that. But what Chris does do is, or I tell him to do sometimes, is on Facebook for estate sales that they're promoting, to reach out to the person. So like, let's say after the estate sale, they still have stuff left over that they don't have time to sell or can't sell. And they can reach out to him to, pick up whatever's left to collect and do junk removal for. So hopefully that answers your question. I think I got it, but let me know if I didn't.
Oh, she's still here. Still here.
Okay.
Yes, you'd keep profits at the least half. Yeah, I mean, I know there's somebody I had coffee with that I met through a networking event. She has a company where she'll basically handle that. They'll go in and they'll handle the whole estate. They'll have somebody, they do private buyers though. They don't like to do the whole open house thing because you end up getting too much of attention and too much back and forth. They'll have a personal buyer come in, buy everything they want, and whatever they don't want gets donated, and they do it in one big swoop. And then they'll get a junk removal to come in and get anything else. They'll have a cleaner come in, and then the place is on the market like the next day or the next week. But what's he doing?
He's just hanging out. Just let him be.
I have recommended people to try to have an estate sale. Just throw it up and say everything must go. And if you have to sell something for 50 cents that normally costs $5, it's not only 50 cents you're making, but it's also money you're saving by not using us. So I probably shot myself in the foot once or twice offering these advices, but most people don't actually do them. They just say, I don't want people coming to my house. I'll just pay you to do it. It's a common thing. Working with Adam, normal franchises. Yeah, I'm looking at your map right now.
And a lot of the people, just really quick on that, a lot of the people that call us for junk removal, they're calling more as a last resort. It's probably because they already tried a lot of the estate sales or selling online or, doing those things. Have a good night. But they call junk removal at the end because they've exhausted all those options. So we don't really kind of give that pitch for estate sales for that reason, because most of those people, like Chris said, could shop them. We would be shooting ourselves in the foot because if they had time, they probably wouldn't have called us in the first place.
Yeah. I'm looking at Cleveland right now. You definitely have some of the bigger franchises near you, which is a good thing, actually. People think that's a bad thing, but having franchises near you means that there's profit, because they're not going to open up a franchise in an area that isn't going to be populated enough to bring them income. So the fact that you have Junk King, College Hunks, 1-800 Got Junk, I just saw somewhere and now they disappeared. And then you have a couple of medium guys that, they all have 100 to 300 reviews. They've obviously been in business for a while. I would say you're probably in a pretty good area for junk removal. Oh, okay, there's a lot of them over here. I think you're pretty good. We have a YouTube channel and a website. What is your channel? I have my computer over here, so I can look up you right now.
Sherry said if it's good if the relatives are out of town. Yeah, that is good. That's where we kind of wanted to start the one-on-one decluttering. I don't know how far in advance that'll get to similar practices, but we figured with relatives that are out of state that need help with decluttering a home, we could kind of work through with them and, remove what they want, but put aside things that they want to keep, like photos or specific stuff like that. So that's a different field we're looking to go into. It'd be a little less heavy too on the body. Can't read it. I can't read that. My eyesight's not as good as yours.
Yep. Sorry, I'm looking at Adam's YouTube channel. That's probably a dumb question to ask what your name was because I could just look up your channel.
Oh, nice.
I had a lady this past Thursday who called 1-800-GO-JUNK but didn't like going through the prompts. She ended up calling me, and yeah, I've had that happen too. Like, I've had people call and say, like, yeah, I tried calling Junk King, for example, and like to get through their like prompts, to get through like their call center, to get to a person just to ask a question was a nightmare, and they just call up halfway through and then they call somebody else. So that's definitely one of the good things about not having a call center. So, I mean, eventually you're going to need one regardless, but when you're smaller, that's a good thing about being the person who answers the phone. I've had people call and like, I'm entering the phone. I'm like, okay, great. I'll be there tomorrow. And they're like, oh, you'll be here? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. Like, oh, that's great. Like, it's so nice to talk to somebody who I'm like, there's not going to be any miscommunication like the next day. So that is a good pro.
One tip too is like if you're just starting out, it's kind of a good idea to call, some of your competitors in your area just to see how they answered. When I was trying to hire Chris for a job, I had to get 3 bids from different junk removal companies. And I called College Hunks. I think I called 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and I think I called one more place. College Hunks like scheduled an appointment with me and everything and never showed up twice. And I had to call them back and I had to go through the prompts, and it was really annoying. And the person scheduling me wasn't the person coming. And so those things do matter. So it's nice. It's a nice benefit to sell to people, but it's also a nice perk of staying like you're small, even if you have, a big operation going on.
Yeah. It's also good just to try to shadow all of your larger companies.
Yeah, you had them come out for quotes.
Yeah, I had 1-800-GOT-JUNK come out to give Tanya a quote to clean out her garage when they first moved in because there's a lot of boxes in there. And that's where I got their price sheet from. But I also watched how they approached us, how they went through the process. Were they confident when they give us the quote? And you can also get that from I inquired online. But if you were to call them, just listen to how they like give you a pitch. What are they saying? What questions are they avoiding and trying to get to in person? Just to give you some ideas to try to follow similar paths. Because you have to assume 1-800-GOT-JUNK knows what they're doing. They have the largest company in the world for junk removal. They built that for a reason. Everybody is modeled off of them. If you've ever noticed that, a lot of companies, if you've ever worked for other moving companies or junk removal companies, a lot of the stuff they do actually came from 1-800-GOT-JUNK. At least the moving, if they have junk removal as well, which they all do nowadays. But if you see them marketing a certain way, at some point, it would be good for you to do something similar if you can afford it. If you see them doing like signs in certain areas, follow that same pattern. If you see them like over the phone, they talk a certain way, or the way their website's set up, like everything they're doing is for a reason because they can't afford not to. So it's a good company to shadow off of. I am Jeff, the dad. Adam is his son.
And that's Jeff right there. And then that's his son.
Yeah, I have your video pulled up right now. It's on mute, but it's Adam's business plan discussion. So seeing all 3 of you, I kind of assume mother, father, son.
You just got a new subscriber.
Yeah, we just subscribed.
Yeah. And liked.
Yeah, we'll watch that afterwards while we're eating dinner. All right. We're coming up roughly, I think we'll end at the 2-hour mark. I was only planning for an hour. We'll stop at the 2-hour mark because I think the first 7 minutes we were waiting for people to hop on. So if anyone has any questions until then, it could be business, it could be personal, it could be Tanya's property management career. She also has a degree in marketing. So she hasn't like worked in it since, but she is still very smart and intelligent. She's very good at money too. So if you guys have financial questions, whether it's personal or business, she would be a good person to ask. Well, you got her here. I think you can only type a message every 15 seconds. So
Crickets.
yeah. So we'll give that a couple of minutes.
Dad's gonna call you.
What?
It's you he needed to talk to, not me.
What?
I don't know.
And I guess in the meantime, anyone have any goals for 2024 for businesses other than numbers? So not just like I want to make X amount, but actual like business goals for improvement, or you want to be more efficient, or you want to work on a certain character trait. Comment down those below. I'll just run through my list really quick while we're waiting for questions. So one of my bigger things is to focus on communication this year. Well, next year. Not only in just my personal life, but for business as well. So learning social cues, being more outgoing, and just not so much just talk to everybody and anybody, but pulling in conversation and actually building off of it. And because realistically, everybody is a potential client and or a very good referral. So you can meet someone at the bar who's just there just to relax after a day of work, and maybe they're a digital marketer, or maybe they have a business of $20 million yearly, and they do like contracting work, and boom, you need a junk removal guy. There's always people you can meet, and I think communicating to those people would be a good step. And then I also just want to work on just overall professionalism when it comes to speaking to individual people. And yeah, communication is just going to be a big one. I'm still torn between if I just want to keep doing 1099s or if I want to do employees. But we'll start with the 1099s and see how that goes. If I don't see a lot of big problems, we'll just keep it as is. If it's like, all right, this isn't going to work out for what it is, then we'll upgrade to more. What else? We're already getting the second trailer next week. So if things go well, then we may upgrade to a dump trailer, but then I would have to get somewhere to store them. I would like to find a more efficient way of selling stuff too. Not necessarily buying a store because that's a pricey thing, but just get a good system going to where I can make that side cash. So I don't even have to rely on junk removal as much for income if I don't need to. So if things start to slow down, for example. But selling has been kind of like a fun thing to do when you actually sell stuff. When you're not selling stuff, it sucks. But when you're actually selling stuff, it's like, oh, I just made an extra $1,000 this week selling stuff that I was paid to take. So that's fun. And then like we also want to restore furniture too.
Jeff asked
Your
if YouTube video.
What?
Jeff asked, do you think your YouTube video helps business?
From what I've been told, yes. I don't do junk removal so much for like publicity or even just for SEO or anything like that. Some people start off like that and then they build it into they just enjoyed it. I started it just like I just was doing something on my own and thought, maybe somebody could profit off of what I've done, and just started talking about that. And if you actually go back to my videos, I did them like a while ago. I made a few that were just strictly tips, and then I like stopped for like a few months, and then I tried it again, and it was a positive feeling having people comment saying thank you for this, thank you for that. And like I'm not perfect business, I'm not like making high six figures a year or anything like that, but I haven't gone down under, which a lot of people do, and I'm not struggling to get by every month financially. So that I think for a lot of newer guys or guys who do things solo, because I'm a solo owner operator, Tanya helps me on weekends here and there, and then I have a main like 1099 guy. So I think throwing in a lot of my moving tips helps a lot of people who can't afford an employee right away, or just talking about some of the things I do, because I obviously keep things kind of frugal with the business as far as marketing goes and the ways I try to get business. So I would say yes, but it's also an enjoyment too. It's also fun. Like it keeps like the jobs fun. Even if I'm by myself, like I'll record it and I'll complain about it on the video if I'm having a bad time, but it's just like something to keep my mind off of the job. 2024, we want to fix our truck and trailer. I think I saw a truck and trailer in the thumbnails. PZ16, hey Chris, do you ever get contracts signed for big jobs?
It's funny, we were just talking about this.
We just talked about that last night. I got hosed on a house clean out recently, and I think I'll start getting contracts for big jobs. What do you mean you got hosed? Like you did the job and they didn't pay? Because I feel like there's ways around that. I don't have contracts yet. I may get something done soon. You can go online and find templates and just kind of edit in your own information, and you can make one yourself realistically. It just may not hold up in court if you're missing certain characterizations that you're supposed to include. That's all information I read last night. But you can find like a lawyer who handles contracts and explain to them what junk removal is and what you typically see, and they will write up a format for you that covers your general basis. You don't need some like 15-page contract. It's not like you're selling somebody a car, but just try to cover the fact that they have to pay at the end of the job and they have to pay on the job. The fact that once things are loaded, that's it. Like if they want it back, there's no guarantee that things are going to be in the good condition because it's junk removal. Some people just throw stuff in the truck. If you leave and the next week they decide, hey, I didn't mean for you to take that chest. It actually had a bunch of pictures in it. Do you still have it? And I'm like, no, that's either in a dump or a donation. Like you're not responsible for those items, stuff like that. And there's a lot of just generalized contracts you can have done. From what I read, and this is probably going to depend on your state, but roughly it's like $100 an hour. A smaller contract takes like 3 to 4 hours, which I think small to them is like multiple pages. I'm sure one page would probably take like an hour, maybe 2 hours tops. So I would just plan on a couple hundred. But I do plan on doing that because we actually had an issue with a repeat client about a month ago that's still ongoing. I'm not going to discuss the details of it, but it is leading me to want to do that. But not for big jobs. What I will do is if I'm doing a job over a span of a couple of days, I'll take payment at the end of each day. So let's say we go to do a full load today and a full load tomorrow and then a full load on Friday. Each day I'll take payment for that day, for that full load. I won't let it accumulate over a span of 3 or 4 days. Alex said we have a lot of competition here in Houston and franchises are independent owners, but I believe there's enough to go around. I work a regular job in the daytime, so it's a little slower for me. We did paid ads with the stupid hearts in the way. There's a heart in the way with Instagram, and we did all right. Is that Instagram? There's a heart blocking it. I can't get rid of. I never thought about doing ads on Instagram. I've seen it done, but I always assumed it's more for just like getting views to your profile. Like I said, franchises and like population, that's good because that means that you have the availability. And I mean, you're in Houston, like there's everything going around in Houston. Like you have plenty of opportunity. That's how I always viewed business too. Like I have all the franchises that everyone else has. And we have like a year ago, I looked up Google My Business and it was like 290 something junk removal results for my county alone. And I ran through those results for like the first 10 pages and everyone on there had reviews. They had something going on. They all had websites. So if there's like 8 results per page, not including franchises, that's 80 of the 290 that are active. So like everyone has high populated areas and high traffic for competition. But I think if there's that much competition, that means that there's enough to go around. So you may not be the breadwinner for everything, but you're enough to get a piece of the pie. And depending on how you perceive that or how you handle that, I think that's plenty.
Get through a lien on the house, which is actually really smart. I mean, that's a good way to get paid. So
yeah, I honestly wouldn't know what to do in that situation. I'd probably ask her. She knows more about that with the property management. How did the Instagram ads work for you? Like, was it just views to the profile? Like it got you more followers or did you actually get jobs off of it? Because that's what I would be curious because Instagram's a little bit more like just like a worldwide kind of thing. It's like next door, I could see being very like specific to your area, maybe even Facebook. Oh, you got actual jobs. Huh.
Yeah, because they have the local stuff on Instagram where it's like based off your geographical location, and it says like, oh, junk removal in Palm Beach County or whatever. So Instagram might be. I mean, it's definitely I don't want to say it's a younger demographic. It's probably middle-aged people versus like TikTok or something. So it's a good idea. We're definitely not getting this Christmas tree tonight.
Why?
It's late.
Don't they close at 10?
I don't know. I'm trying to look that up right now.
Let's look up Home Depot Lowe's. He called a lawyer in front of that. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. Yeah, Nextdoor is a great source. I mean, I don't use it as much as I should, but like my helper is pretty much strictly on Nextdoor. He hops on like Facebook here and there. He does moving, deliveries, and junk removal like in his Tacoma, or not. Sorry, he'll get mad if he sees that. It is Tundra, but he like is strictly just on Nextdoor, and he keeps more busy than I do. Times 10. He has like 2 to 3 jobs every single day, 7 days a week. That's good for him.
I didn't. OfferUp is a good idea. I feel like there's a lot of different avenues you can technically sneak around to get your name out there. And even telling Chris, like, not to advertise while you're selling, but realistically just going on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp if he knows people like trying to sell or give for free a lot of heavy furniture, to reach out to them and say like, hey, if no one ends up picking this up, I do provide a junk removal service or company. I am a junk removal company, and I can do something that size for around this estimate. And I mean, I think, did the office job? No, there was one job I think you got off of reaching out on Facebook.
Our community has a Facebook page, and the guy had posted on there saying that they were selling computer desks and chairs, and he had posted a few, and he's like, we have a lot of them if you guys have any interest in it. We're located in so-and-so area, and you have until like the end of this weekend to get them, so just let me know. And I commented on there and said, do you have any like 4-drawer file cabinets? Because we were looking for one, and if it's less than $40 to get a decent one that's not covered in roaches, I'll take it. And he commented back, and I said, okay, cool, let me know. By the way, or I think I might have messaged him directly, and I said, hey, by the way, I have a junk removal business. If whatever your office doesn't sell, if you need it to go, we can come by and I'll just get a big U-Haul and we'll load it all up in one trip, save you guys some time and energy. So that's something that ended up getting me a job that was like $2,000 or $3,000. But I've also done with Nextdoor and Facebook, for people who post like everything must go. The moment you see everything must go, send them a message and ask them a question and say, hey, how much is so-and-so? I have a neighbor who's looking for it. I'll pass the information along to them. By the way, if you end up having stuff that doesn't sell and donation won't take it, I do junk removal. Here's my information. And you can get jobs off of that too.
Sherry said TaskRabbit is good. And I've heard TaskRabbit's a good site to do. I don't know if it's like specifically for smaller jobs, but just to get your name out there.
Yeah, I think TaskRabbit's like real big for like handymans and small contractors. But I think you also have to, you either have to pay for your lead or...
I don't think that's TaskRabbit. I think that's Thumbtack.
I can't imagine. I get the hiccups from the kombucha. I can't imagine it being free.
I think you like name your price.
Either that or they take a pay out of your overall cost. The viewers are very confusing because it'll go from like 2 to 700 all of a sudden.
I think people like just log in.
You keep 100% of what you charge plus tips, invoice, and pay directly through a secure payment system.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like a community of people who offer little tasks, but they don't expect you to be expensive as expensive as a company, because it's like hiring individual people.
Huh. Oh, Sherry says a customer pays for the lead, she thinks.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
Alex wrote something.
I get inquiries on OfferUp, then I sent my phone number. Sometimes they call and text. It's about 50-50. Yeah, I mean, 50-50, but if it's something that is as easy as just sending a text or a message to your phone that you can do in 10 seconds and then potentially get a job that gives you a couple of $100, like that's time well spent. So, I mean, realistically, if you were to just hop on there and look for, I don't know if you can do keywords on OfferUp. I don't use OfferUp, but if you can do keywords to say everything must go or estate sales, just run through the list and message every single person. I've done that before with people where I'll lie and say, hey, my neighbor may want so-and-so. They just told me the other day they're looking for it. How much are you selling it for? Blah, blah. I'll send the information along to them or ask them if it's still available. And then I'll just throw in my information underneath. And sometimes people are like, oh yeah, great. I'll keep you in mind. And half the time you don't hear from them, but you never know who does. Or maybe they say, oh, that's good. And they pass it along to somebody else. Just because they don't need it doesn't mean their friend won't. Did you look it up?
No, what? TaskRabbit?
No, Lowe's and Home Depot.
Oh, yeah, 10.
Oh.
But I don't know if that's the tree spot.
What do you mean?
The tree place is like separate.
Oh. Okay, one more question and then we're going to go. We're already 9 minutes over.
I think everyone asked.
We'll give it 10 seconds. Plus another 10 seconds to type it. He looks familiar.
He does look familiar.
Jeff, your son Adam looks very familiar, and I can't pinpoint where. It'd be funny if that's actually Adam. Damn it, Todd. How do you handle jobs if somebody wants to move and do junk removal? So if they want you to move them as well, that's kind of up to you. If somebody, because I did do moving beforehand, if somebody asks me, hey, can you move me too? If it's something I'm willing to do, I'll tell them I can go get a rental truck and do it on the side, but it's not going through the business. There's no insurance. There's no coverage. If anything goes wrong, the business has nothing to do with it. And I cannot take credit card payments anymore. It either has to be cash or Zelle. So I do use my truck from time to time for personal stuff, but I try not to, especially depending on the client. Because if something goes wrong while you're driving with your company truck, and let's say you get in an accident and all their stuff gets screwed up and they want coverage for it, even though you told them you're not a company, I just see there being a lot of gray area there for coverage areas and like potentially getting sued or something. But I would just say like, yeah, I can go get a rental truck and I'll take care of this for you. And, you know, we'll just do like a pay thing on the side hourly or whatever. Alex said he did that with an office job. Huh. Yeah. Worked out with me.
You also refer like your...
Yeah, I'll also refer out my 1099 guy because he does moving. So, I mean, he'll push a job to me that he can't handle or he can't get to because he runs with just a truck, and then he like gets U-Hauls normally. So if it's not worth it for him, he'll push it my way too. So try to keep people around you busy. If you know somebody who does moving, push it their way. You know, if anything, say, hey, you know, I'm doing junk removal now. If I have somebody who's looking for a mover and I send them your way, you know, send me a $50 Zelle or something if you end up getting the job. Like it's going to be a fraction of what they make, but it's just a little bit just to kind of help you out. It's not going to hurt them.
And a tip too is if you like do go to a customer and they have items to move plus junk removal, if you do refer them, don't refer them to a company that also does junk removal, like College Hunks or a 2-minute truck don't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was gonna say do the junk removal first and then refer the moving company.
Yeah, try to do junk removal first if you can. A lot of the big franchise moving companies, like over the last 4 years, have been opening up junk removal as well. Like College Hunks, I think, was the first to do it because they started off as a junk removal company back in like 2004 or something in like Tampa, Florida or something. And then they eventually grew into a moving business as well. So they do both. But then I started noticing towards the end of my second company I worked at that the places near me, like Safe Balance, started doing junk removal. Good Greek started doing junk removal. 2-Man in a Truck started doing junk removal. And it makes sense to do. It's almost stupid not to. Like you already have the company, you have the truck, you have the fleets, you have the people. It's the same skill set as moving. It's just now you have a little bit less care with it. Like it really is like a perfect, service to add on to moving. So I would be careful with who you recommend. Try to find somebody who strictly does moving, because even some moving companies that like only do moving and like they're smaller guys, sometimes they'll say, yeah, we'll take the trash at the end. We'll just go dump it off before or after. And they'll charge a very small amount because it's just an added fee. So
that makes me just think of really quick a different lead. I don't know how well it works, but valet trash is becoming really popular, and a lot of valet trash companies link up with junk removal companies. They'll just do the trash everyday portion, but if a customer or client resident puts like couches or bed frames or things like that, they don't take that obviously in their contracts, but they contract with the junk removal company. So if like a small valet trash company that's local, and link up with them, that could be really good for your recurring business.
That too.
And it just made me think when you said college hunks, because they have that contract.
I do that with another independent contractor. We shoot each other jobs. Yeah, I mean, I do that too. I just don't ask for Zells. I would like to, but I've met a couple of guys off of YouTube in my area. Like one guy's in my county, but he has a dump trailer and handles more construction jobs. So if I have a construction job or it's something I can't get to, I'll push it his way. Like I had a guy reach out to me a couple weeks ago, had this great big old
pizza oven.
Yeah, it was like a pizza oven. Those things are like 1,100 pounds. And I was like, I am not fucking touching that. So I sent it to this other guy in my county who has a dump trailer, and he has a winch on his trailer or on his dump truck. And I was like, hey, I got this job. If you want to go handle it, here's his information. And he took care of the job. So I helped the client out in hopes that in the future he'll remember me. And this guy got a little bit of business. So in the future, maybe he has something he can send my way. So I think it's good to have a good connection with your competition versus treat them like competition. Like you send somebody jobs, eventually they're not going to be able to get to it. They'll send you jobs. And if you ever need help, like let's say you're doing a really big job and it's just too overwhelming to handle on your own, you can contract out other junk removal companies. Ricardo from Junk DFW does this. I don't even think he even works, but he'll contract out other people to do the job for him. So you can essentially just hire another company and say, hey, I'm doing this junk removal job. I need to hire your services to come help me on this, and then just pay them enough to cover disposal and time, and you handle all the background stuff. So it's basically going to be filler work for them. It's not going to be as profitable, but guess what? They didn't get that job first. So that's another way just to kind of hang on to your money. Vaughn, you're coming on a little late. We're about to hop off. Yeah.
Texting my dad.
All right. So if we don't have any more questions, I think we're going to go ahead and hop off in just a moment. You guys can also ask questions like on the community page. I put a Q&A thing up there. So I'll just save them for next time, or I'll answer them on the post itself. And then when this video gets posted to the channel, of course, you can just go back and rewatch anything I may have answered ahead of time, or comment more questions and we'll answer them. Todd, do you run Google ads and Google local ads? If so, is it worth the money? I do not run either one. And it's just because I just personally just don't want to spend the money on it. I know people who put a lot of work into it. They do well, but it's one of those situations where you're either going to fork out thousands of dollars, or you're going to lose a lot of money. So it's kind of something you have to learn first and play around with it. I would recommend checking out Andrew Thompson from Jedi Junk Removal on YouTube. He's a tech guy and does a ton of videos about Google ad campaigns and should be able to answer better questions for that. But that's what I would recommend. But that is it for us. We are going to go pick up our Christmas tree before they close. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for tuning in to our live.
I have to say.
You have to come in.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Your stream will stop immediately and you will no longer be live.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Sherry.
Bye, Sherry.